Welcome to the channel. I am the Script Doctor, and today I will be reviewing XmenDarkPhoenix. If you haven't seen the movie, please keep watching so I can save you from an hour and 40 minutes of disappointment. Concerned about spoilers? Don't be. Nothing of value happens in this movie to qualify any action as a spoiler. So with that being said, let's take a look at XmenDarkPhoenix. This film starts in 1975, where 8-year-old Jean Grey kills her parents because they wouldn't change the radio station. Professor X introduces himself, uses a pen as an analogy for her powers, and tells her that even though she killed her parents, she's not broken, because that makes sense and won't be a bad line of thought that'll bite him in the ass later. The movie time jumps. Time jumps. In other words, let's restart telling the story less than 10 minutes into the movie. My first lesson today, for any new, and in Mr. Simon Kinberg's case, more experienced screenwriters: if you cannot establish some character information in the present story, and think you can only do it with a time jump, your story is flawed, and you should go back to your outline to fix it. If you want to establish a tragedy in a character's history, explore the consequences of that tragedy in the present story. You can start with cliches and always rewrite them to make them different. So, if your hero's parents died, visit their grave. If they're divorced, have a conflict with alimony. There are quicker, more dramatic ways to convey information than a meandering scene outside of the main story you are telling. Back to the movie. And 5 minutes into the restarted story, we're in 1992 now, and introduced to a shuttle launch where something has gone wrong and the President has requested the X-Men for help. Do we get to meet the X-Men before this mission? Do we know who they are or their powers? Nope, you, the audience, don't get that privilege. You have to watch the previous movies. The team reaches a shuttle spinning out of control, and there is some sort of anomaly heading towards it that NASA thinks is a solar flare. We learn that Kurt is a teleporter but needs to see where he is teleporting to and can't get a clear image because of the shuttle spinning. Here is an example that the writer and director know nothing about space or physics, because he has Scott destroy a thruster that is causing the shuttle to spin, and the shuttle starts to slow down. Except in space, there is no friction or atmosphere to cause a shuttle to slow down. Raven orders Storm to freeze up the holes in the shuttle, except Storm is a mutant that controls the weather, which is reliant on an atmosphere, so where is she getting the air or water to form ice on the shuttle in space? We aren't showing the shuttle venting atmosphere, it just has panels falling off the hull. Also, shouldn't a mutant with ice powers be doing this instead? This brings us to our second lesson. Do your research! Even if you're making something up, you're going to be drawing from reality in some regards. So it is best to know what you're adding to, manipulating, or reworking so to convincingly execute your story. Even with adaptations, you as a writer need to know the source material inside out and backwards so you can best adapt the story and bridge the fans with those that could be fans. This is how you grow a niche audience into a blockbuster audience. You don't need to parrot the source material, but there is a reason it stood the test of time for you to adapt. So Kurt can now see inside, and he and Peter teleport over and rescue the crew. The team is about to go home when a crew member informs the X-Men that their captain is still on board in an airlock trying to fix the thruster that Scott destroyed a minute earlier. Fair enough, we have elevated stakes. Storm says she can't do more to hold the shuttle any longer. I don't know why that is relevant. They're not up there to save the shuttle, but the crew. So the shuttle is breaking apart, and Raven doesn't want to risk saving the captain. Charles, who is using his mind powers to coordinate with the team, suggests Jean go over there to hold the shuttle together. Again, why does it matter if the shuttle breaks apart? The captain is in a spacesuit. He'll be fine in exposed space, and when you have a freaking teleporter on your team who can go over there to look for him in seconds, you really don't have any conflict aside from a ticking clock of this anomaly heading their way. The stakes are pretty good. The shuttle's not headed to Earth, so why should we care about a freaking shuttle staying together? There is no risk at this point. The captain is in an airlock, in a spacesuit, and the shuttle is breaking apart. What happens is Kirk teleports to the shuttle and finds his way to the captain and brings him back. There is no reason for Jean to be over there. We have a false action. A use for a character that is not actually needed. A very poor and lazy manipulation to get Jean to merge with this anomaly. There is no logical reason, no emotional reason, no useful reason to have Jean here at all given her telekinetic power set. She is essentially being used as spackle in this set piece that clearly wasn't well thought out enough to create the conflict that the title suggests. This is insulting to the audience, to the story, and to the character to be used in such a manner. So Kurt saves the captain and Jean absorbs the anomaly. Kurt teleports to save Jean, and this entire sequence takes around 2 minutes because of slow motion. Jean is now better than okay. She's super powerful and is heading out to a mutant bush party. Finally, no-name bad guys show up in an unknown area and possess a dinner party. And at the mutant bush party, without an understanding or reason, Jean wants people to stop and sends out a shockwave. More than 10 minutes of meandering about the set piece we just saw, which puts us into an exposition scene repeating what we saw in the teaser, and suddenly she hears her father, and this is supposed to be dramatic conflict. She realizes that she can't control her powers, and her first action is to seek out her father instead of the professor who has raised her and helped her develop her powers for nearly 2 decades. Then the no-name bad guys tell us their plan, to use Jean's new power to restore their race on planet Earth. But we don't really have a sense of that power. However, this is the first character that has presented a goal in this story, so kudos for at least having some sort of motivation. We see Jean introduce herself to her father, and Raven judges Charles for hiding the truth that Jean's father wanted nothing to do with her after his wife died. Then Jean learns the truth, and we see again, the 3rd time now, details from the teaser. If we keep showing bits from this teaser, why did we need to see the teaser in the first place? Seconds are valuable to a story, and they are being wasted on repetition. This upsets Jean, and when the team and Charles come to bring her home, she acts as though she doesn't have a home because he lied to her about her father not wanting her anymore. You cannot make a character compelling if they are not listening to the words coming out of their own mouth. You cannot have your audience empathize with a character when they are behaving objectively stupid. If you want Jean's actions to make sense, the movie has to create context for us, the audience, to understand why she would reject everyone around her. That has not happened here. Jean then spews some trash about Charles only wanting to use Jean for her powers, yet we see nothing of the sort to allude to that, so where is she coming up with this line of thought? She's trying to behave as though she has finally discovered some hidden oppression against her, but there is no evidence to indicate anything of the sort. The only thing she has grounds to be angry about is Charles letting her believe that her father was dead, so that she would be spared the truth that her father didn't want her around anymore. Not the best way of handling that type of situation, but clearly shows a sign of love, concern, and protection towards her. It also adds a flaw to Charles. He cares so much for his students, and finds them so fragile, that instead of helping them get through such difficult emotions and growing, he'll shield and protect them from those issues. That is a good flaw for a mentor character to explore, but it doesn't appear to be used in this story. Instead, we have Jean, again without reason, use her powers to toss Raven away, and she gets impaled on splinters of wood, killing her. Except Raven's a shapeshifter. She has the power to change her size and appearance on a cellular level. Should that not allow her to simply shapeshift to survive? I mean, if she can change into a 6-foot-tall man, growing in size, should she not also be able to close an open wound? I could see if her head was lopped off killing her because she may not have enough mass to create a new body, but that may be too gruesome for this film. Her power may not be like a healing factor, but it is very familiar in the principal function of changing and/or replicating cells. Anyway, we have a funeral in the rain because Storm can't make it a clear, sunny day for them. Seriously, you have a mutant who can control the weather at a funeral, and it is still raining. Was this Charles's idea? Hey Storm, it's a sad day and it's too sunny out. Turn on the rain, will ya? Hank, grief-stricken, calls out Charles for his mistake with Jean. Then we have Jean, a mutant with mind-reading and telekinetic powers, unable to remove bloodstains from her shirt. She tries to wipe them off instead of using her mind to lift the blood off her shirt. I mean, she can hold together a space shuttle, stop moving police cars, and throw people into broken fences, but separating blood from a shirt can only be done with bleach and a washing machine in this universe. No-name bad guys find Jean's father and tortures information out of him. Joke's on those bad guys, Jean's dad hasn't known anything about her since she gave her to Charles 17 years ago. So Jean goes to Magneto for help, hoping he can teach her how not to hurt people. You know, the type of lessons Charles has been teaching her whole life, and who offered to help her moments before she killed Raven. But that wouldn't let us see Magneto, and we have to see Magneto, so the filmmakers are going to force us to see Magneto. And while she avoids trying to talk to Magneto about her struggle, the army shows up for Jean because she's attacked police officers, and to prove these soldiers correct, Jean starts attacking them. No debate, no room for compromise or understanding, just attack the soldiers so Magneto has to save them. Magneto demands she leave, but Jean still needs Magneto's help. Well, she should have thought about that before attacking those soldiers. She leaves, the government declares mutants are bad because of her actions, and the no-name bad guys find Jean in a bar somehow, and for some reason, Jean decides to listen to this stranger than the people she knows, trusts, and love, who have offered her help for the past hour into this movie. Hank goes to Magneto to use his resources to find and kill Jean because she's killed Raven. Jean gets an exposition dump from the no-name bad guy of what the power she has can do, so instead of showing us what she can do aside from the simple telekinetic stuff that she's done so far, she can also create life. But we're not shown this, just told, which brings me to Lesson 3. Show, don't tell. If you want to display some amazing trait in a character that holds importance, you show it, as people are more likely to watch with their eyes than listen with their ears, especially if you're in a theater where other people are talking. Hank, Magneto, Dreadlock Guy, and his lady mutant friend track Jean to New York and prepare to kill her. We then have a pointless scene debating Storm, not going, but we all know she is going because she's in the scene. This leads us into an action set piece, mutants versus mutants among civilians. Magneto challenges Jean, but is no match for her powers and is defeated. Charles makes his own attempt and allows Jean to read his mind, which convinces her how much he cares and wants to help. She learns how Charles believed in her and her father did not. Basically, a whole bunch of information we got around 25 minutes into the movie has finally reached Jean an hour later. What a great lady role model, people. What makes this frustrating is that there is no obstacle to Jean getting this information initially. This is needlessly dragged out conflict. Had Jean been given a real motivation, a goal that we as an audience could understand and empathize with, there may have been a story. If Jean doesn't want to hurt people because of her growing powers, we need to believe her point of view that Charles can't help her. But we get no example of Charles failing to help her, no sense of despair to her goal to justify running away or seeking out the help of Magneto, and the poor writing proves that, when in the final moments of the second act, Charles reconnects with Jean and starts to help her. So now that the pointless hurdle has been overcome, the bad guy tries to take the anomaly from Jean so she can destroy the world. The army comes in and captures all of our mutants and puts them on a train heading to a containment facility. The bad guys go after the train so the lead bad guy can absorb the rest of the anomaly power, and we go into another set piece where Jean defeats the bad guy and flies away. Charles retires, Hank takes over the school and renames it the Jean Grey School for Gifted Children, and the X-Men franchise from Fox goes out not with a bang, not with a whimper, but with a meh. X-Men Dark Phoenix is a poor movie. No pun intended. Given the amount of time, money, and reshoots revealed, this project should have avoided a lot of the narrative problems we found today. Stay tuned for my next video, where I rewrite a new outline for how I would have fixed X-Men Dark Phoenix.